lyrically, Megadeth have always had a bit of a political edge to it, and that hasn't really changed. Do you feel that, in the last couple of years, or since your last track or before this, the world has changed a little bit? Has that really affected sort of the way you're writing songs now?
I don't think so. I think that things that I've been talking about, it's current events. It's stuff that's happening. Stuff I talked about 20 years ago, it's happening. And it's not like I predicted it. I just reported what I read. And I think that looking at the way, when I first started, there was a USSR. Now there's not. There was a wall. Now there's not. There was communism. Well, there's still communism in China, and still, factions of communism around, Asia and so on. But it ain't like it used to be. So, and the rules of engagement have totally changed in war. Your great-grandfather fought with a gun and a bayonet. Your kids aren't even going to have to go into combat because it's all going to be done by computer.
Yeah, right.
We're using drone planes right now, and the super guns that we're making, they have these guns that will evaporate the flesh off of you. Now, who's going to want to mess around with a dude that has a gun like that?
Well, I don't want to mess around with a guy just with a regular gun, but I think that one is...
That's scary. Yeah, and then they have these other things that are like sound guns that are just, will destroy you just because of the pulse of the sound. These super guns that they have with really long barrels and huge caliber shells that come out of it are nothing compared to the modern army right now. It's all going Star Wars.
And I think a lot of metal bands seem to sort of lyrically be driven from these big stories and big folklore and all of that. It sounds like you are recognizing all of these, almost sci-fi stories that are happening in the world around. Is that the case? Do you sit there and watch the news and...
Yeah, I watch a lot of the news. I watch a lot of the news. I think that it's really important to look around where you're coming from, where you're going. If you don't pay attention, you're gonna come back to the same place, and you think you're going around in circles, and really you're not. It's part of the whole process. We've been here several times to Australia and seen some change, but not a lot. Not as compared to our country, because. I've been there my whole life. I've seen a lot of stuff there. When I came here last time, I learned so much about the country because, I was bringing Gigantor down here, and I really wanted to make this a territory that was going to be part of my business and go forward with a relationship with Gigantor and the Australian people. And that was really cool for me. Also, when you're here, if you're going to do something like that, you need to kind of understand the people. You need to understand, what happens with the laws, and that kind of stuff. It's really consuming if you're just like a stoner and you're not paying attention in life, and you haven't studied in school and you have no education. The chances are that you're going to be able to conduct business at any kind of level, that you're going to be able to do anything significant in your life or have any kind of impact on your culture or your surroundings. It's probably less than if you stayed in school and you keep working at things. If I wasn't a musician, I've already said that I would want to be a teacher, or I think it would be cool to be like a entertainment attorney to destroy people who hurt bands, and like Aaron Brockovich, but basically go after the music industry people who hurt bands. I think that would be really cool. Now, I don't want to make any enemies because I've got a lot of friends in the music industry, but it's the principle behind when you have a band and you start calling them product. They're people. I'm a person. I remember somebody from EMI in Germany called us product one time. And if it wasn't a woman, I would have punched her in the face. It was really, really insulting because we're people.
Yeah. But, by the same token, you were just talking about Gigantor and being a business there. Your fans out there are people as well.
Yeah, but Gigantor itself is not the fans. Gigantor is a festival that comes and travels. So it's a traveling festival, therefore it's a business.
Yeah.
You know, the people that come to see Gigantor are heavy metal fans that love guitar and know that they can count on me to bring them something that's going to be quality and it's not going to be super expensive, because I don't need their money, and I certainly don't want to make my career off of the efforts of other people. I'm pretty well established. I think my name's going to go down pretty well in the history of rock and roll and heavy metal, and you know, when it comes down to being able to do something good for the bands, I think that's a really cool thing with Gigantor, because we've got a lot of bands we've taken out that would never have had the opportunity to stand on a stage that big.
And, well, man, I guess time will tell how well Gigantor's done down here. It did very well last time. Hopefully it will come back.
It will, but we had this opportunity to do this thing with Slayer, and then we're going back to Canada to do more with them, and then we're going out in the States with Machine Head for a month, and then taking the holidays off, and we're going to go back out for 2 more months right after that. And there's a lot. We have the next 18 months planned out for us. That's a lot of touring.
Yeah. Do you ever get sick of it?
Now, when you got a good record, if you got a record that's not being received very well, like we had a period where the music industry and the fans were just not aligning. The industry was telling us to do one thing, which was basically the boss, and the fans were saying something else, which was basically the customer. And I was put in such a terrible place there. I'd never wanted to quit Megadeth before, but that's why I did the MD45 project. I hated being in the band with those guys because it was all about songwriting and money and shares and percentages, and I want this and I want that, and it's like, you know what? You guys have completely lost sight of why we play music. We play music because we love it, okay? We don't have the same vision anymore. We don't have the same focus anymore. It's all about your songs. And you know what? You've already been told that EMI wants the record to be written 70% by me because your songs aren't any good. I didn't say that. EMI said that. My manager wrote a letter to Nick Manza and said, Nick, your songs are a dime a dozen, maybe a nickel. And I saw that and I was like, ooh, boy, how do you say something like that to somebody without, leaving a mark?
That's what managers are for.
Yeah, but I wouldn't have said it like that to Nick. Nick was one of those people who was very outspoken, and I think that was probably his downfall. He had told us he had cancer and he didn't, and it was sad because, granted, we didn't want him to have cancer. I love Nick, but he's in terrible shape right now, and I heard he just did a commercial. Sean just told me he did a commercial for a cymbal company, and he's like a shell of who he was.
Wow.
And I can remember when I went through my, years in the desert, out on that drug-addicted island, and just all I lived for was to get loaded, and it's not who I am anymore. I look at some of my friends, and I look at their face, and it's like, wow. Some guy got in the plane with me 2 days ago that I hadn't seen in about 20 years. And I looked at him, and I went, oh my God, is that? It's me. I said, wow, you look different. I didn't want to say, wow, you look like an old dog turd. Where's your hair? I didn't want to say that, but,
wow.
You just like, oh my gosh. Because we're about the same age, and it looked like a prune, and he didn't have any hair, and what he did have was all going gray, and I was like, thank you. Because, all that time spending, laying on my back sleeping paid off because I don't look like that.